Welcome, dear educators, dear colleagues from all over the world to our introductory session of a course, special, novel, revolutionary course that was developed and going to be delivered and delivered by myself and by my friend, my colleague, Mr. Sila. This course is organized and hosted by Stokos, Australia, and Huan Village, China, two international educational hubs that are today pioneers in education worldwide, and they are supporting and helping all educators worldwide in their sacred mission of education. So this course, that's a revolutionary course that was developed by myself and by my colleague, Mr. Fuad, for Stokos and Huan Village, is CPD certified course. It's based on our 50 years of combined experience as educators and educational leaders worldwide in the USA, UAE, Europe, China, and Lebanon. We conducted in our 50 years of experience educational more than 500 workshops, trained more than 15,000 teachers, founded, presided many schools, implemented, designed more than 10 pedagogical models and 50 curricula for many subjects, published hundreds of educational and pedagogical articles, and we were authors of many education books in many subjects for the 21st century lifelong learner student. Welcome again, and please let's make sure we're all on mute mode, and later on, of course, we are going to be more than happy to answer all your questions. The main objective of our revolutionary course is to make sure that our educators, teachers, principals, vice principals will acquire all needed skills and pedagogical knowledge to encompass the pillars of the 21st century lifelong learning education, using the unique spiral approach and methodology by growing the horizons of knowledge and skills based on a progressive reviewing and revisiting process. The course is governed and guided by different types of activities: role plays, group works, collective researches, real-life implementation, and more. And it is addressed to meet and exceed the needs of 21st century teachers, also known as today facilitators. And Mr. Fuad, my colleague, is going to explain to you all the details about the course in about 2 or 3 minutes. Principals, vice principals, and coordinators. The 18 CPD hours CPD certified course is spread on 6 different modules, over 6 different modules of 3 hours each every Saturday. What is CPD? Some of you think, what is CPD? And why CPD certification is a major plus when you receive your diploma, your certificate at the end of this course. CPD is not just the #1 certification body for teachers and other professionals in all infrastructure fields of life, but it's one of the rare educational bodies, entities that are acknowledged and trusted by thousands of universities and internationally acclaimed education entities that offer CPD certified course. And you can see some of them here displayed on your screen. Of course, we cannot have them all on the screen. Then we're going to have only 300, 400 slides displaying to you those thousands of education entities. Today, CPD is the sole leader in continuous professional development for educators and other professionals. Last but not least, CPD certification service is the largest independent professional development accreditation organization working across all industry sectors. This course is the needed backbone for all 21st century educators with its unique and holistic approach, a backbone that will simplify to all our educators to convey the holistic-based lifelong learning education to our students today that are our future leaders. Because it's completely governed by its holistic methodology and systemology, a methodology generated and based on latest education researchers and guided by innovative and practical applications. Educators will gain at the award of this holistic spiral approach and innovative revolutionary course various novel facilitating methods. We are well experienced, as I said, 50 years of experience, me and Mr. Fuad, internationally acclaimed educators and workshop leaders. We conducted more than 700 workshops worldwide, and in the last 1.5 years, we conducted more than 17 webinars hosted by One Village. And 21st workshop and 20, okay. We served more all our life the sacred mission of education, and this course is the fruit of this 50 years of combined experience of our sacred mission, serving the sacred mission of education. And that's why this 18 CPD revolutionary hours unique course will be conveyed to you, dear colleagues, within an unlimited post-course support and implementation assistance. We will be always with you in implementing whatever you acquired as knowledge and skills. We are ready to meet with you always after the sessions every Saturday, okay, if needed, to answer all your questions in different languages. We speak many languages, English, French, Arabic, Armenian, many languages. So we're ready to help you in all those languages. And I think Mr. Fuad speaks some other language. He's hearing it now. He will tell you later about those languages. Mr. Fuad, my colleague and the co-developer of this great course, he is going now to explain to you in detail the 6 modules. What are those 6 modules that we're talking about in this revolution course? Please, Mr. Fuad, the floor is all yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. John. And myself, I extend my greetings and I welcome everyone who has joined us, fellow educators from different parts of the world. Without further ado, as Mr. John had just said, the course is made up of 6 modules, each spanning a period of 3 hours. Now, those modules were carefully designed to serve the ultimate goal, which is empowering all educators at all levels with the needed knowledge, the needed skills, the needed mindset to, in turn, pass on this empowerment to the 21st century learners. First module, module 1, is entitled The Different Pedagogical Pillars Needed to Establish the Facilitating Lifelong Learning Environment. Basically, module 1 builds the foundations. First, and perhaps a most important topic we will cover in module 1 is the facilitator versus the teacher. After all, the course is entitled Facilitating a New Paradigm in Contemporary Learning. We all know what a teacher is. However, in the 21st century, or 21st century education necessitates that we no longer teach, but we rather facilitate the learning of our students. When we actually do that, when we facilitate the learning of our students, we would be instilling in our students the traits of the 21st century lifelong learner. But that cannot be achieved just via certain methods or certain strategies or approaches or tools. The foundation of this facilitating or these facilitating endeavors is a leadership style. Whether you are a facilitator or a teacher, whether you're a coordinator, whether you're a vice principal or a principal, leadership style is a pillar. It's a cornerstone of your endeavors and the most appropriate and the most effective leadership style in education is the student-servant leadership model. Of course, all of these would be presented to you, and you will get a chance not just to listen, but you will get you'll have the chance or the opportunity to have some hands-on experience, as Mr. John said, via a variety of methods and tools, be it group work, individual work, etc. So now I'm just briefly going over the topics in each module. Next, assessment. As educators, we know that assessment is part basically of what we do. More often than not, teachers or educators in general resort to summative assessment and perhaps a little bit of formative assessment, most of the time because they are required to do that, either by their coordinators or by their principals and so on, without really appreciating or without really realizing that in the 21st century, assessment must be a combination of these two forms, formative assessment and summative assessment. Next point we would be discussing in module 1 is the portfolios of facilitators and students, often something that is often overlooked, not taken very seriously. Why do we need a portfolio? What do we need to? What should we have in our portfolio? We would be, you would be yourself inferring the importance of having your own portfolios and of guiding students, motivating students, helping students to develop their own portfolios. Why? We would be discussing that in the course. Next, these two notions, along with perhaps 2 or 3 more, are really the major cornerstones of a 21st century education. Real life-based education and classrooms without borders. At first, you might think, oh, I think I know what this is, real life-based education. Classrooms without borders. Okay, I take the students outside of the classroom. Well, it's not as simple as it might sound at first. There's much more to that in terms of what you can do, what you should do. There are international experiences from a variety of systems, that is, a variety of countries, that has proven to be effective in creating meaningful learning in students. The following point is education and affect. Very often, people refer to all emotions as, all feelings as emotions. Hence, you might read a lot about education and emotions. However, emotions is only one type of feeling, and I'm talking here strictly academically. The umbrella under which you can find all forms of feelings, including emotions, attitudes, moods, and so on, is affect. We would be studying the bilateral effect of education and affect. The next point, differentiation, which is to many educators a nightmare, really. Everyone considers differentiation to be too complicated to implement, too demanding in terms of time, in terms of effort needed to differentiate, plan for differentiation, and to implement differentiation. After this course, all of those incorrect ideas that you have about differentiation, I am certain will be completely changed. But differentiation is, because differentiation in particular causes so much headache, if I may say, to most educators. You will see in a few minutes that we have dedicated one full module for differentiation. Finally, the brainchild, the model we are most proud of, Mr. John and myself, that we have co-developed and we're most proud of. We're proud of everything we've developed, but these two in particular, the multi-layered curriculum and the curriculum classroom differentiation framework, in a nutshell, without going too much into details, before I move on to the next module, these two, the multi-layered curriculum and the curriculum classroom differentiation framework, are basically a model, a tool, something that would make any educator, or that would facilitate as in make it easier, facilitate putting together, implementing, or everything that 21st century education necessitates, right? Without having to constantly worrying about, oh, did I differentiate? Did I include this necessary pillar of 21st education in my plans, in my lesson? So we've created this user-friendly, practical, these two practical modules, the multi-layered curriculum and the curriculum classroom differentiation. As Mr. John said, throughout the course, we will be resorting to the spiral approach, which means, again, we would introduce, and then you will revisit a number of times until you master any information, any skills that you will come across in this course. Moving on from module 1 to module 2. Module 2 is entitled Parents, Facilitators, and Students, the Trilateral Crucial Collaboration and Partnership. Often, it's not really a trilateral collaboration. It's not a triangle. It's a segment really with two points. It's either collaboration or a partnership between the parents and the facilitators, or facilitators and the students. But these three together forming a trilateral, basically, to put it in a graph, a triangle. These three parties are rarely appreciated as being, non-disposable. These three need to be there for an effective, successful education. So in module 2 explores the rationale behind, the importance of, and the approaches to the effective implementation of student-servant leadership. You notice here the spiral method, right? In module 1, we introduced student-servant leadership. We revisit it here, and we will revisit it in other modules as well. Another thing that we will cover in module 2 is parent-school partnership and students' roles in their own education. You might say, okay, we understand that parents need not just coordinate, with schools, but they need to form a partnership. Okay, but what about the students' roles in their own education? Really? What do they know? Do they really know what Or can they really play a role in their education? Of course they can, and they must. Now, this can be achieved, that is parent-school partnerships and the students' involvement in their own education can be achieved via steering committees, collaborative planning, classrooms without borders, the legacy dream, the one entity triangle. Again and again, all these will be presented to you. You'll get the chance to work, whether individually or in groups. You'll get to discuss all these notions, all these practical tools in the course. Last point for module 2, I had briefly mentioned or spoken about the MLC, or the multi-layered curriculum. As the name suggests, multi-layered curriculum. Parent-school partnership is a layer in that multi-layered curriculum. Module 3 is entitled The Necessity of STEAM's Education and the one subject called Knowledge Benchmark. Okay, Module 3 explores the rationale behind the importance and the approaches to the effective implementation of the second S in STEAMs. I assume that most of you have at least heard of or have been involved one way or another in STEAM education. What about the second S? What is this second S in STEAMs? Well, for those of you who have some extra knowledge about STEAM education, it actually started as STEM. Then the A was added. Now there's an S that has been added at the end. STEAM's education is, well, it's called STEAM's education. It's not called the STEAM's approach. It's not called the STEAM's tool or the STEAM's method. It's called STEAM's education. So it's more of a strategy, really, to one of the strategies of the 21st century education. Hence, it needs a certain mindset that the educator or the educators need to develop in order to effectively implement STEAM's education, something that will be covered in a lot of details in the course. STEAMs and real-life based education. Well, that's why the very concept of STEM, then STEAMs, and now, sorry, STEM, then STEAM, and now STEAMs education, because researchers were basically trying to make the students' education, what they learn at school, what they work on at school, as close as possible to real life. But STEAMs, you know, is, one has to admit, it's a huge leap forward, but it's not, let's say, we're not even close to, or STEAMs doesn't take us even close to the end point or the finish line of complete real life based education. We'll talk about that in module 3. STEAMs education is basically projects, okay? However, not every, I mean, you can always go online, Google STEAM project, and you'll get, I don't know, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of projects that are there with everything that you need, you know, their objectives. You can even find lesson plans, you know, and how to implement it, how to assess it, and so on. You will see for yourself, and you will conclude that not all projects named or dubbed STEAM or STEAM's projects are indeed STEAM's project. They do not all meet the characteristics of STEAM's. There is actually a set of characteristics that a project needs to meet for it to be a STEAM's project. STEAM's education as a layer in the MLC, just like parent-school mutual partnership, and from STEAM's to one subject called knowledge. One subject called knowledge, which is already being implemented. Earlier on, we were discussing with Dr. Liu the Finnish model, the model in Finland. I know that they do something similar in Singapore. So sooner or later, all education is going to be one subject called education, simply because, without saying much about it, really knowledge cannot be chopped down into, although we all were taught that way. You learn math alone, you learn languages alone, you learn technology alone, you learn sciences alone. But in real life, when we are faced, and later on when our students in the 21st century will be faced with an issue, when they have to deal with daily life, as I said, even ourselves, we don't resort to our knowledge in bits and pieces, but the accumulated knowledge that we have acquired, knowledge and skills, obviously, over the years. So this is, in short, what we mean by one subject called knowledge. Of course, there's much more to that than what I just said. Module 4, as I had mentioned earlier, is dedicated to differentiation. Differentiation, a major catalyst for reinforcing the role model facilitating lifelong learning environment. I won't repeat what I said about feelings that most educators feel about differentiation. I mean, even the name itself, creates perhaps goosebumps. In Module 4, we will be exploring the rationale behind why do we need differentiation, its importance, and the approaches to its effective implementation. But differentiation is basically has 5 forms, 5 types. Content, or differentiation by content, differentiation by process, differentiation by product, by environment, and by effect. The first 4, well, you can easily read about them, countless articles online, blog posts. But when it comes to differentiation by effect, it's often considered as part of differentiation by environment. But because effect is such an important element in education, although here it is listed as the 5th type, or the 5th pillar, as we like to call it, the 5 pillars of differentiation, effect is at the very top. Because the shortest way to any person's mind, whether it's a student or an adult, the shortest way to any person's mind is through his or her heart. Once you win a person's heart, his or her mind would be much easier to reach. Again, a complete module will be dedicated to differentiation. Similar to the previous 2 topics of the previous 2 modules, 2 and 3, differentiation is also a layer in the multi-layered curriculum. Moving on to module 5, entitled Revolutionizing and Simplifying the Differentiated Lifelong Learning and Facilitating Environment, completing the multi-layered curriculum. So far, in modules 2, 3, and 4, I mentioned that there are 3 layers in this model or framework or tool, which Mr. John and myself have developed, the multi-layered curriculum: the STEAM's education, differentiation, and parents school partnership. But there are many other layers that need to be in this tool, and they're all pillars of the 21st century education. They must be there. Otherwise, that won't be 21st century education. The first 2 are vertical integration and horizontal integration. Okay, I assume that many of you will say, oh, but we already do that. We integrate vertically, we integrate horizontally. I'm sure you do, but there are always there's always more to this. Plus, these 2 in particular, not just these 2, all the elements that we're going to talk about, that we will be presenting or conveying to you in the course, should not and are not really to be taken in isolation. They're all pieces of a big jigsaw puzzle. If a piece is missing here and a piece is missing there, the picture won't be complete. Next, ICT integration. I mean, with the advancement of technology in the past, I don't know, maybe decade or even less, in particularly in information and communication technology, when we integrate ICT, to many educators, perhaps asking students, let's say, if they're language teachers, if you ask a student to submit an assignment in typing, on Word, instead of having it submitted on a piece of paper, written in a pen or a pencil, when then you would have integrated ICT. Perhaps that would have been great 10 or 15 years ago. But ICT, information and communication technology, got to a point, and it's still developing every day. It got to a point that allows us and really requires us to look at education, look at the learning and the facilitating endeavors in a completely different way. Now we have the tools, of course, the technological tools, to redesign or revisit really everything we do in our educational endeavors. Next, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Obviously, students don't only learn in class, via a textbook or an iPad or via projects. These 2, the co-curricular activities and extracurricular activities, are often confused as being the same. Actually, they are not. And just like with all the other concepts I had presented to you, you will have hands-on experience using a variety of activities to plan for co-curricular and extracurricular activities as they should be. Of course, after we would have conveyed to you the difference between both, the importance of each, and their importance, particularly to having meaningful learning in our students. Next, the goals of the local educational authorities. No educational institution is an island, works in vacuum. You always have educational authorities that looks over or monitors everything it does. And educational authorities all over the world set certain goals for the educational sector. Basically, they set the goals based on what they want and what they expect from schools to not just deliver, but to, or how they expect schools and educational institutions to empower students for, or to be ready for the future. So those goals set by the local educational authorities, I mean, really, no educational institution has a say about this. You have to integrate it in your learning and facilitating endeavors. Last point for module 5, the local culture and identity on one hand, and globalization. Perhaps I can call it a dilemma. You know, a lot of people, those who are for globalization and those who are against globalization, you know, they say globalization jeopardizes our local culture, local identity, our traditions, and so on. And there are those who are saying, no, globalization has nothing to do with that. Well, for the 21st century, or the 21st century learner needs to appreciate, not just learn about and appreciate his or her local culture and local identity, the history behind it, because he or she is the product of that culture, that and the elements of that identity. But at the same time, he or she needs to be well equipped and empowered to later on, when he or she becomes an adult, to live in a world that is, whether we like it or not, dominated by globalization. Now, moving on to module 6, I would say, although all other modules, I mean, they're all practical, they're all hands-on, but in module 6, we really put everything together. Module 6, entitled The Multi-Layered Curriculum and the Curriculum Classroom Differentiation, the roadmap leading to the comprehensive and effective 21st century facilitating lifelong learning education. Before I talk about, these two models, these two tools, the MLC, the multi-layered curriculum, and the CC differentiation framework, again, the brainchildren of Mr. John and myself, really make it very easy. I like to say they are user-friendly. They're very practical. They are easy tools that can help us as educators compile, integrate all the components of the 21st century education in practical and user-friendly paradigms. In module 6, after you would have developed your own multi-layered curriculum, and you will you'll use the CC differentiation framework to produce, using the MLC, which you have developed, to produce the needed directorial resources, such as the yearly plans, the unit plans, and the weekly plans. So MLC and CC differentiation, again and again, are just tools that would facilitate, that is, make our lives as educators easier. On one hand, it enables us to ensure that all the elements of the 21st century are there, and then the CC differentiation framework facilitates using the MLC to produce the directorial resources that we all as educators need in our daily life: unit plans, yearly plans, weekly plans. How will you be doing that? you will be doing that by being involved in collaborative planning sessions to generate one subject called knowledge units, big, major, and minor ideas, BMMIs for short, and BMMIs based timetables. These three points also were developed by myself and Mr. John, but they are necessary for the successful implementation of the multi-layered curriculum and the CC differentiation framework. So, in all, just to sort of wrap up my presentation on the six modules, as you must have noticed, it's a comprehensive course. It's a holistic course. It covers everything from leadership to assessment to differentiation to co-curricular, extracurricular activities, ICT integration. I'm not going to name everything. And we are certain that by the end of this course, you will be empowered. You would have not just acquired, but mastered the knowledge, the skills that are needed for you to be an effective 21st century facilitator, which in turn enables you to empower your students to become themselves 21st century lifelong learners. Now I will pass the stage or pass the mic back to Mr. John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fuad. It's a very detailed and very comprehensive roadmap and description that you gave us tonight on all this important course in which transfer teachers to facilitators, which is the most important pillar. If we cannot facilitate by, let's say, make sure that facilitate the inquiry to our students cannot be lifelong learners. And that's why, dear educators, dear colleagues, in 21st century lifelong learning education, students learn by doing within a holistic approach. Students acquire knowledge and skills. Students' differentiated classrooms has no borders. Teachers do not teach anymore. They facilitate to make sure that students are apt for today and ready for tomorrow. Student-centered lifelong learner classrooms without borders are established. In 21st century lifelong learning education, real-life based education generates and guides the facilitating and learning environment. Formative assessment is the key player within all assessment strategies. There are no more subjects, but only one subject called knowledge. Students, facilitators, principals, vice principals, coordinator are going to lead all of them together the sacred mission of education within a student-servant leadership approach. Differentiation within all 5 pillars is guided by its pillar of differentiation by effect. At the award of the 6 weeks, 18 CPD hours, CPD certified course, you will acquire all needed knowledge, skills, and know-how to reach the apex of the 21st century lifelong learning educator, and you will master all its pillars as we stated all of them today. And you will apply them within your facilitating learning environment in your schools by using the famous holistic spiral approach and implementing the new methodologies gained within the real-life-based applications during this magical and revolutionary course aimed to make sure that all our educators, teachers, principals, vice principals, coordinators are apt for today and ready for tomorrow, for a better tomorrow. After those magical 18 CPD hours, you will make a difference in your schools by generating the skills and the know-how gained within this novel course in your classrooms and within your hierarchy of educational infrastructure. Students, teachers, principals, coordinators, and vice principals, parents will praise you and will follow you as a role model educator and educational leader.
Okay,
Now,
thank you, Mr.
Fuad,
John.
I pass the financial
Yes.
part to you as an expert in finance.
Yes, in addition to my experience in education, I also have extensive experience in finance. Okay, so I'm sure by now all of you are saying, wow, it's a great course. You know, it covers all these things, very interesting, and so on. But what do I have to pay, you know, for this 18-hour CPD certified course? The basic fee, this is just the beginning of the slide, so don't be like, ooh. The basic fee for the course is 1,500 Australian dollars. It's priced in Australian dollars because Stocus is an Australian entity, which is approximately 1,050 US dollars, you know, depending on the exchange rate which fluctuates. However, you get a 20% discount for each referral. So if you register and then you refer a colleague or a fellow educator, you get a 20% discount for each referral. So if you refer 5 fellow educators, you get your course for free. Another option, for groups of 5 or more who register as a group, you know, they all get 30% discount on their registration fee. And as we said in the in this session's flyer or pamphlet, if you register before 8 p.m. Gulf Standard Time, which is about 12 a.m. China Standard Time, you get an extra 10% discount on these. So
that's valid for today. For today, no?
Yeah, yeah, that's just today. So basically an hour from now,
approximately,
you get 10%, okay? And later on, you can get an extra 20% for every educator that you refer. Honestly, it's a good deal. I mean, from a strictly financial perspective, again, this is a CPD certified course. So, and I strongly encourage you to look up CPD online to see how valuable their courses are, you know, which international entities across basically all sectors, not just in education, IT, aviation, medicine, and so on. So for such a course, it's a very good deal. Now,